Okay, so I pulled this up. I know this happened last week with Charlie Kirk being shot. This is going back to the online conduct portion of your syllabus, and I want to really stress to you guys as you go through probably the rest of your life, certainly with your military career and even your career, the things you say and do online will be held against you. Okay? This is not isolated to this one guy. All right, when you look across social media, tons and tons of people are getting fired, like from civilian companies, because they are celebrating the death of a civilian. Okay, it's not that he was, a right wing, conservative, whatever he was. It's that you're celebrating the death of an American who, by all accounts, he was an innocent man. Right? He's a father that is married, and someone just shot him, and he wasn't like a violent guy. Okay, so know that what you do and say online can come back to you, and you need to be aware of all that, right? So this is just one guy. The reason it's a little different is he's a Marine officer. I saw a Navy guy. We're not the Marines, but DOD is going to be DOD. Okay. This guy was relieved of his duty. He didn't technically violate UCMJ, except when you look at something called UCMJ Article 134. Okay. This is what we call the catch-all article in UCMJ. Okay. Any conduct, literally anything, that does not bring good order or discipline to the nature or bring discredit upon armed forces. Okay. This is not Army. This is everybody. Okay. Uniform Code of Military Justice. So when you're doing these things, you're making posts about that, which really goes against American values, again, celebrating the death of an American citizen who was innocent. Well, that's bringing discredit upon yourself and you through affiliation, part of the U.S. Armed Forces. So, not to speculate, but I wouldn't be surprised if this guy is no longer in the Marine Corps a year from now, right? These things will happen overnight, but I would not be taken aback by that if he's not affiliated anymore. Okay? So things can happen. All right, so for today, what we have is somewhere in our classwork. Here we go. We're going to start with cultural awareness, and then we're going to move into squad tactics. Okay, and that is another reason I bring this up into the cultural awareness, because that is being aware of our culture as a whole. Let's see if we can open this up. So it's presenting on the whole interview. That's not going to help. Let's go through here. Okay, so whenever you're in the Army, you're going to teach things. You're going to go with learning objectives. Our learning objectives are describe culture and its four components, recognize the factors that influence and shape a culture, discuss the importance of cultural heritage and armed conflict. So that's what we're trying to do of this learning objective. What is a culture? A system of shared values, beliefs, behaviors, and norms. Because it's part of the Army, our culture is to abbreviate things that don't need to be abbreviated. Okay, so VBBN, this will probably never come up for the rest of your life. No one is going to say the acronym VBBN that means values, beliefs, behaviors, and norms, except for the Army. That we use to cope with the world and each other, which is learned through interacting with others. Okay, so here's our four components. Our values, relative and subject view of what is valuable and important. Beliefs, a conviction of the truth of some statement or the reality of some being or phenomenon. Behaviors, observable patterns of action, and our norms, a range of permissible behaviors established by a group. Can you give me a value? What's a value? An American value. Not necessarily an Army value, but like an American value.
We value life.
Value life. How about the individual? Right? We value the individual. That's an American thing. more specific, like a Western thing. Again, if you talk about other cultures like Chinese, they don't value life as highly as we do, right? If you talk about the communist regimes, it's communism, right? It's the whole is greater than the individual, whereas we in the West, we value individualism. What's a belief? You guys are here at the Catholic University. What's a belief?
Religion.
Religion. That's a belief. What's another belief? All right, that's a grand concept. What might be? How about the belief? Do you like sports?
Mm-hmm.
Who's your sports team?
Commanders.
Commanders. Do you believe they're the best franchise in the NFL?
No.
Ever? Okay, that's a belief. Right? You know, guys that really just are diehard fans, okay, that is their belief, right? So it doesn't have to necessarily be religious. It's just, I believe this. I like the 49ers. I believe that they're the best franchise in football, which is why I root for them, even though they don't have the greatest team over here. What's a normal behavior? The normal behavior, American behavior. An observable pattern of action.
Honesty.
Is that a behavior? That's a trait. Is that a behavior?
No.
How about waving? I wave high, right? There was a thing in World War II where the British and the French, they said, you know, the Americans are super undisciplined as a military force, but you always knew who they were because they would be waving at you, okay? It's a very American thing. How about smiling? Okay, here's an interesting one. If you're in trouble, what's the face you like? You had a job and now you're in trouble, or maybe you failed a test. What's a face you might make? It's a sad face, right? If you go to Japan and you feel like embarrassed, actually might smile. Okay, they're not happy about it. It's like ooh, whoops. Okay, so that's a behavior, right? That's a cultural behavior. What's a norm? A range of permissible behaviors established by a group. What would be a norm?
Going to school.
Okay. What about wearing clothes? That's a norm of our society, right? It's a culture of wearing clothes. Is it weird if you see a guy running around with his shirt off just around campus? That wouldn't be normal. What if you're at the beach? Right? It's normal at a pool or something, right? So those are norms. Okay, that's a norm. Okay, so going around, we'll go in a circle. We're going to start with you. How does the climate shape your culture? And this is literal climate.
Like temperature.
Yeah. Pick a country. It's got a weird climate.
I guess you could say like places in Africa where like whole tribes have to like work together to like I don't know, maybe get water or something like
Yeah,
that.
right. Because that's land and water. But next one.
We'll start with the heat. So.
Right, heat. Okay, that can dictate their culture. Or climate can dictate their culture. So one of the things when you're in Iraq, or maybe in Europe, right? But when you're in Iraq, it's hot, right? Even though you guys have probably never been there, it's hot in the summer, 120, 130 degrees. No one is outside during the middle of the day. Okay. What that also means, bring this to the Army, is no one's starting fights at 2 p.m. It's too hot. Okay. So there's lulls in your time based on that culture. All right. So that's a way to climate. And let's go to the opposite, which is if you went to Iceland or Greenland, it's cold, there's snow, right? That's going to determine how your culture fits in, right? People are going to wear coats every day. Right? Land and water.
But the land and water can affect what the people eat,
Mm-hmm.
the type of stuff that, like the activities that they do surrounding that land, or if they have like, I don't know, sports or anything. Like
if you live right next to an ocean, what are you probably going to eat?
Fish.
Right. So you might have a culture that likes fishing. What if you live in a desert? Foxes. Right. So the land and the water. What if you live in a mountainous terrain? How will that shape your culture? How about probably never been to Austria. I don't know how much you guys have traveled the world. You heard of a yodeler? Yodeler, right? Would you expect that to exist without mountains that were echoing? Okay, so that's a weird cultural nuance, right? Determined by the land. That wouldn't exist in non-mountainous areas. Right? Geography and politics. How does that shape your culture?
How like the government is run.
Yeah, it does, right? When you vote for a president, how many candidates do you think you have, realistically? Here, too. What if you went to England? How many parties do they have? More than two, right? Tories and stuff, right? So that politic can shape the way you think about the world. If you think I only have two options, and that's what you think, okay, that's going to shape my politics and that's going to shape my culture. You can also say,
Morning, sir.
Morning.
Just giving you my CC-104.
okay,
I gotta go to class.
all right,
Thank you.
okay. You can also say the way we divide it, right? Local, like city, county, state, federal, right? Our politics and our government is shaped in a different way than other nations do stuff, and that determines how we use our culture. Right? Economics. Who's next? Economics. Culture of economics. This is an easy one.
Yep. I'm also an econ major, which makes it a little easier.
Why is America different than Brazil?
Because in America, we've always had it kind of pretty easy to move from one job to another.
Right.
So in one way, that's allowed us to move easily from one place to another. So we tend to be more blunt with each other.
Mm-hmm. Do we produce a lot or we consume a lot?
Both.
Right. We're a very much a consumer-based society. That shapes our culture. Okay. Forever 21 probably doesn't exist in Africa. Just a guess. Okay. Again, I really like football, and so who played last year? The Chiefs and the Eagles for the Super Bowl. Well, I'm gonna guess that those guys in Africa think the Chiefs won last year because when they print all those T-shirts, it's congratulations, Eagles Super Bowl champions. Well, you don't get to sell the merch of the team that lost, so they just donate them to a different country, and so they probably all think the losers have been the winners for years. Okay. So economics can shape that culture. Religion, what is our nation based off of? What?
Protestantism.
Christian, Judeo-Christian, right? That's what America is based off, Judeo-Christian values. What about China? Probably not, right? So that religion is not the only thing that gives us our morals and ethics, but it is a strong driver of morals and ethics, which is our culture. Okay. Language. How does language shape culture?
Well, language, you can have different slang and terms to describe certain stuff and situations.
Yeah. Sometimes you'll see it where English is a really, really tough language. And I think as you're talking about language, there, and there, right? One word, three definitions. Okay. So language can shape a lot of things. You could even say that the strength of America is that most people speak English. I can go to the state of Washington, to Hawaii, to Connecticut, to Nevada, name your 50 states, and they will speak English and I can communicate my ideas to them. Some small variations, but I can communicate. Now go to Europe. I'm in France, then I'm in Belgium, then I'm in Switzerland, then I'm in Germany, Italy. Every one of them is speaking a different language. So how can you have a unification of a nation if they don't speak the same language? Okay, so language is highly important. I would say language is probably the base of all culture. Okay, and that goes back to not like English, but even just hunter-gatherer. Like I'm just pointing at a thing I want to go throw a spear at. Okay, that is language. Okay, sign language. Social and family structure. How does that shape your culture? We are a melting pot in America, right? We get all the cultures. So how are some of them different?
I guess people act differently if they were raised in a household where you've got like all the grandparents and everybody living under one roof, or alternatively on like the opposite spectrum, if they were like an orphan.
Yep.
And also certain cultures, I think some are more matriarchal,
Yeah, matriarchal.
and the others are like patriarchal.
Okay. Would it be unusual in your family if you lived at home until you're 25? It would be. What about yours? Like, it's fine, right? Okay. So some cultures say, you're 18, get out, get a job. You're an adult. And other cultures say, no, I want you to be successful and live here until you get a path in life. Okay. So that can shape your culture. All these things. Because of its emotional, okay, so here we are in armed conflict. Because of its emotional context, cultural heritage is particularly vulnerable in times of conflict. All ranks within a unit must be aware of the requirement to protect cultural heritage and identity using the principles below. Identification of cultural heritage, resources, and the people responsible for them using thorough research, academic advice, understanding of local values. One of the things, there's a movie that came out, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. It's called The Monuments Men. I don't know if you've seen it. I haven't, but I know what it's about. At the end of World War II, there was a whole group of people that had to go around looking for priceless works of art that the Nazis had stolen. Okay? And they want to return that to, I don't know, the French people who stole it first. Something like that. Okay? But understanding that those were culturally significant, we actually dedicated efforts into that. Okay. One thing that you might find, we have something called rules of engagement, which says you can't attack someone, and these are the parameters. In Iraq and Afghanistan, you would see that the adversary would go park at a school or a church or a mosque. We would not attack them until they came out, and they knew that. And so that's because we didn't want to be responsible for destroying a church. Because you destroy the church, and there's a lot of people in that community that just love the church, and now like, hey, I don't care what you're doing, you destroyed that, and now I'm going to be against you. Okay, so being culturally aware of things like that is important when we talk about armed conflict. Okay, you can make more enemies if you do something wrong. Completion of a risk assessment, cultural heritage in the area of responsibility. So this is something that will be done by the civil affairs team that's going to be at your highest echelon, and they'll push that down to you guys. That will get down to the platoons, which is really just saying this is a historic building or this is a culturally significant building or area. Don't go there, and then they'll tell you why. And you, as a platoon leader, will have to plan your missions around that. Okay? All right, so now we're gonna, let's see if there's anything else. Okay, that amount, we're gonna be, there's only 4 of you, so we're just gonna do this as a whole group. And we are going to pull up cultural awareness. We're gonna do a practical exercise. If you guys see a practical exercise somewhere, download it. Nice and share. There it is. So as a group, you're going to be approaching these problems, and I want you guys to list out 3 to 5 things and what you think, okay? So here's your scenario. Second Lieutenant Williams and her platoon are deployed to assist in the defense of a small republic under siege from a larger power. They've been assigned to a small town that has a local museum. As her platoon begins to occupy the area and bed down, they are approached by an older woman who tells them that the local museum is very important and that the villagers are afraid that their adversaries are planning to set it on fire. Your soldiers tell you, you're the acting platoon leader. What do you do? Okay, so spend the next 5 minutes, and I want you to come up with a course of action that you guys are going to do for the next, again, 3 to 5 course of action. How would you respond to this information? All right. So let me zoom in. Morning. You came at the right time. Oh, that's not good. All right, so you can join. We're doing practical exercise. It's about cultural awareness. All right. So basically, you're a second lieutenant. You're on patrol, and here's the scenario: local museum. An older woman tells you that the local museum is important, and the villagers are afraid that adversaries are going to set it on fire. Okay, so with that information, how would you react if you're the platoon leader? Okay. All right, so 5 minutes.
Could just do like an area investment. That would probably be overkill. Based on that's all I told you. It's just be like one guy come. You should realize sometimes.
Hey, who knows? Who knows? Maybe she's working. Need more information.
Well, that's a spot that they're probably our job is. I mean, we don't have a mission here without me. Well, yeah, it's just, so our mission is defense. Yeah. Defending, and then we know technically that it's going to be coming, but yeah. Right. So that's what you do. And then even if I
But also, if you have too many people there that would draw fire to so then it would just be some red arsonists or whoever would be doing that, and then the entire enemy would be attacking that.
I think then it comes down to whether it's area defense, whether it's ambush. Because ambush, they don't move there.
This say under siege from a larger power, so
They're not going to send their entire element. So
unless we do reasons. So that's not the reasons. Maybe something a little more chill, like send a squad there every night, check on it. Maybe just like watch it during the night or something. Maybe from when they're most likely to attack. Fact check out. Ask her. Wherever she tells us to go, she'll lead the way. So like send a squad every night.
yes, elder to defend it.
1 minute. All right, you guys got some answers? Okay, what do you got?
We're talking about sending a squad there every night to check on it because that's probably most likely when the museum would be attacked.
Okay.
We don't want to have too many people there because then that could make the museum even more of a target.
So set up a security patrol. Okay. Well,
So we want a fact checker first, because right now this is just one random lady coming up and telling us this. So maybe check the other people in the village and be like, oh, is this actually a real thing?
okay.
Or is she working for the enemy and just trying to get us to go there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
What else?
And it would be a good idea to get information about what the adversaries want to do. Because if it's just like some local sympathizer who wants to burn it down himself, that's one thing. But if the adversaries are coming to this town to destroy the museum, that's a little different.
Okay. So here's what we came up with in the last class. So request a cultural advisor. Okay. So since you're in an area that you don't know, you're going to request up, and they should be able to tell you that, right? So a cultural advisor is not someone in the Army. A cultural advisor is normally a local national, like this old woman, that we have hired as a contractor to provide us with cultural advice, okay, to get us through the certain inner workings of what that cultural does. So that would be one of those things. Hey, we had an old woman say this museum is important, and then you reach out, and maybe the cultural advisors say like, no, museum, no one cares about museums, right? You know, just saying. Report to hire that it's a potential target. So, like you guys said, hey, we need to know maybe the enemy wants to target, and if it is, maybe you can set up an ambush or something, right? You could do something with that. Move security around the museum. I said that. What capabilities does the adversary have? So that's an RFI. Okay, an RFI is a request for information. That goes up. We want to know this. With RFIs, be specific. If you are vague, you're not going to get a response at all. Like, I don't know what you're asking. Or you're going to get the, I don't know what you're asking. Okay, so you want, or you're going to get just too much information. Like, I didn't want any of that. Okay, so RFIs need to be specific. Request for information. They can ask media to report that there may be repercussions. That could be something like, oh yeah, it looks like the U.S. Army is protecting this, and so that gets reported through whatever their information network is, and so, oh, okay, we're not going to mess with it because we know the Army's there. Okay, that'd be part of your PSYOP game plan. Is the artifacts? Oh, is it? Are you trying to protect the artifacts or the building? Okay, if you care about the stuff inside, you could maybe move it, or do you actually care about the building? Right. So you need, that's an RFI again. What do we actually care about, the building, or is it because the Mona Lisa's inside? Right. Okay. Two more scenarios. So let's see. Okay. Second Lieutenant Smith and his platoon are deployed to a desert region in the southern provinces of Kandahar. His platoon has conducted security patrols all day, and they're preparing to bed down for the night before resuming operations in the morning. As his platoon begins to occupy the area and bed down, several soldiers find miscellaneous pieces of pottery, old coins, and fragments of religious artifacts that appear to be carved from stone. As the soldiers continue their search, they also discover several mud bricks that the ground seems to form the outline of a structure. These soldiers approach you and they tell you the story. How do you respond? Okay, I'm going to give you 3 minutes. So come up with how you respond to your soldiers finding that stuff.
For some, I wouldn't want them messing with it. You go and get a cold red, I would find out if it's like some site that's meaningful to those people.
It could even go beyond that. It could be like a UNESCO World Heritage Site or something. But also, I wouldn't want to like bring down a cultural advisor in immediately because these guys want to go to bed.
Well, in the immediate sense, you want to move the guys to a different ideal location.
Yeah.
seem super, like, you're not getting shot at.
No,
Also,
it's a random archaeological,
make
like,
sure
that's
that
the
So like you're probably able to move.
exactly, I would say like everybody could leave everything where they found it, and probably like we move and contact the culture advisor to see like what this is really like.
probably like go through the squad leaders and just like,
Yeah.
I go to the squad leaders and be like, can you check your guys? Because like, I don't trust that that guy's not going to take that old coin and try to pawn it off.
For sure, it's gonna be fun there.
Yeah, definitely be good to know what those are. Get the request for information, culture advisor, like you guys said. Especially with it being religious things, like
Yeah, it's probably something you don't want.
if somebody messes with
The
that,
US,
Get cursed.
I wasn't even considering that. Yeah, it could get cursed. Can we call Indiana Jones?
I was thinking more Pirates of the Caribbean.
In the desert.
Yeah.
So we get them out of there. Put
But,
the dead.
but if it doesn't matter, entirely wouldn't want to move them, right? Because they're going to be annoyed if you make them all get up right and try to go to
You're gonna
bed.
be annoyed, but you're avoiding making
But you just find out, like, whether it's actually nature site for.
If it says they're religious artifacts,
Maybe not that quick.
like
Exactly, like if
Old
it's like in the
structures.
middle of the night, there's a high chance that the culture advisor isn't gonna be like
Probably the same.
available at that
Yeah.
moment. I would say move them, cause I don't want
it's
like
safer.
someone to be sleeping on top of something like that's meaningful, like, oh, but he's really nice.
You can
I
move
mean,
them
would
a
anyone
little
ever find out if it's in the middle of the night? You just say.
bit. All I'm saying, man, is the Taliban destroyed a lot of like Buddhist stuff, and we know all about that.
I think it's just
Right.
before they bed down, just move them, like, what, like 50 feet? Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah,
It
like
doesn't have to
nothing
be
like too
fine.
much, it's like that they're away. It's like, exactly.
Imagine if they're like digging trenches, it's only moving 50 feet that way.
Like they just finished their foxhole.
Temporary, yeah, fuck yeah. That's the word. It's a deliberate fighting position.
Just test it.
Okay, you guys got it? What do you got?
So,
Alright, the first thing we would want to do is move the men out of the area so we're not bedding down on a potentially important site to that culture. And after that, we're going to want to report everything up and request information and a cultural advisor to find out if that's actually an important site.
Okay.
And make sure no one took anything.
Yes.
That would not be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
we want to find out what this place is as early as possible, because it could be a very important like world site for tourism. It could be very important religiously, you know, especially if somebody takes something. You never know who that could offend or what conflict that might start.
Anything else?
Put them back to bed.
Okay. All right. So yeah, first one is just move. This was not part of the plan. You were on a patrol. You guys stopped here because you're tired. You're going to move on the next day. So yeah, just go somewhere else. Report to hire. Request cultural advisor. Like I said, don't touch anything. And then again, tell everyone not to touch anything.
Make sure.
All right, scenario 3. Sergeant Lieutenant Smith and her platoon are posted to an Eastern European country. As the soldiers begin to explore their surroundings, they notice vandalism of a war memorial. When they return to the park where the memorial is located over the course of several days, they observe new evidence of damage and failure of attempts to repair the vandalism. Soldiers report to their platoon leader, you, and inform her of their findings. How do you respond? All right, so again, 3-4 minutes. What's up?
So a question, because you said posted to an Eastern European country. Is there like a war going on right now, or is this like a peacekeeping kind of thing?
It does not say, so I'm going to assume that it is not in conflict. You just post it to an Eastern European country.
Would it be safe to assume it's a U.S. oriented war memorial, or
It would not be safe to assume that.
Even like local parks.
Yeah, if you like, why would we have a
no? I'm
memorial?
just trying to
for-
figure out why we. Yeah.
Right, so it's their local memorial, right? Like you don't memorialize other people normally, not in Eastern Europe.
So I was gonna say, like, if we're at war with somebody right now, maybe this isn't really our priority. But like, let somebody know and then keep moving on with our mission.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm saying
be there.
the reason I ask is it's not our memorial, and while it would be a good thing,
I
it
don't
really
know,
depends what we're
report
doing.
it, also just to like let everybody know that wasn't us, so we don't get like people angry with us thinking that we did that.
I think it would be within the scope of whatever mission we have here to
Mhm.
protect it.
Why? Why do you think these other countries
Because
We're, yeah, that's
No, but this
international.
is-
Would
they were
that,
the-
wouldn't that make the public mad at them? They want to
To
vandalize this, obviously that's, no, obviously that's, they're
we want
voicing,
crime.
they're voicing their concerns
Well-
by doing this, and so by stopping them without the consent of like the government of the country you're in, I feel like that's.
But I would assume our obligation being in this country is to the country itself, not necessarily to the people vandalizing the memorial.
We're there to enforce law and order. So
Right.
don't get mad at us when we
Enforce the law and order.
Also, it does say that there were attempts to repair the vandalism, but that those attempts failed. So it's not as if it's like a one-sided thing, because people keep doing it.
Maybe they should
Maybe they're just like bad.
have someone watching over this memorial, right?
That's campus.
You got
Yeah,
nobody.
just in a
That's
guard.
about it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, very small.
This is Eastern Europe. They could have like AKs or something. We should like have a whole team there.
Heavens and all the people.
All right, you guys got it? All right, Will's gone.
Got some semblance.
Yeah.
You already went, someone else. I'll just talk about it, so what'd you hear?
So we were saying we would report it up that to make sure like they don't think we did that. And then I don't know if we should like help them try to repair it, but it's like it's not really like our property, I guess. But then we should have like people just like watching it, like making sure it doesn't happen again. Maybe.
Okay, so yeah, ask the soldiers, did any of you do this? Okay, that's gonna be the first question when you report it from your battalion commander was, are we at fault, did we do it? Okay. Report to hire, does the graffiti mean anything? Right, so it could be gang signs, it could be coordination of some kind. You tell the local authorities, observe and report. So your instincts are good that if you repair it, then they will expect you to repair things in the future. If you repair it, you are saying, whoops, I did this. Like, oopsie. So you're actually claiming, even if you did it or not, you're now essentially making yourself liable for it. You might be thinking, I just want to do a good thing, but that's not how it gets interpreted in the real world. Okay? So it's not yours. You know, just say, hey, this is what we saw. We didn't do it. If you want, maybe we can help you by providing security or running surveillance or something like that. But yeah, don't attempt to repair it. That's not our job. Okay, so that's what we got for cultural awareness. And I think we get 30 more minutes, right? So we're going to move on to, not you, to squad tactics. So now we're getting back to the Army and what you're expected I have notes in here. Where are these notes at? Okay, so you guys should have gotten this in your freshman class. Okay, so this should be a refresher for you. I put all my notes down here, so I'm going to be reading some of these. Review the composition of infantry rifle squad. Review the organization of an infantry rifle squad and the roles and responsibilities of each member. So I pulled these notes. No, not that one. Straight out of the FN, okay? So that's your picture. The infantry rifle squad's primary role is as a maneuver or base of fire element. While the platoon's task organization may change, the infantry rifle squad's organization generally remains standard. The squad is comprised of 2 fire teams and a squad leader. It can establish a base of fire, providing security for another element, or conducting fire movement, with one team providing a base of fire. While the other teams move to the next position of advantage or onto an objective, the squad leader has 2 subordinate leaders to lead 2 teams, freeing the squad leader to control the entire squad. One of the reasons it also exists like this is we've been operating out of the Humvee, and now it's the Joint Tactical Light Vehicle, I believe. They have 4 seats. You give a team a car, they have 4 seats. So it's actually pretty pragmatic to do it that way. Here's your staff sergeant right here. That's your squad leader. He's an E6. He's probably been in for 6 to 10 years. Followed by your team leader. He's a sergeant. This guy's probably been here for 4 years. So normally you do your first 4-year tour, and then they promote you and say, hey, we'd like you to stay for another 4. And that's where the sergeant's normally coming from. It's the second tour guy most of the time. This is your grenadier. He's going to have your 203. He is going to be a specialist or a corporal. A corporal is an NCO, but he is still an E4. Okay. Then you're going to have your automatic rifleman. He will also be a specialist. He's the one carrying the gun, the machine gun. Okay. Here's your basic rifleman. Carries an M4. He's an E3, private first class. You got 2 of these teams. Okay. Squad leader is telling this. I mean, you can probably hear everyone, but in theory, he's telling this guy to move somewhere, this guy to move somewhere. I.e., I want you to provide cover fire, your team, and I want you guys to flank around the right. Okay. Here's the squad leader. The squad leader directs team leaders and leads by personal example. The squad leader is responsible for the accountability of squad members, has authority over subordinates and overall responsibility of those subordinates' actions. Centralized authority enables a squad leader to act decisively while maintaining troop discipline and unity. Under the fluid conditions of close combat, the squad leader accomplishes assigned missions without constant guidance from higher headquarters. It specifically uses the term centralized command. Okay? Centralized means that I am physically telling you what to do. This is different than the rest of the organization of the Army. Like a general is decentralized. Okay? A general is not going to be telling these guys, charge the hill, fire, come here while I move, right? That's not the general's responsibility. They have decentralized that order process to the lowest level, which is going to be the squad leader. All right? We operate this way, whereas other militaries do not operate this way. If you look at the Russian military, their officers have centralized command. And when the officer dies, for whatever reason, or can't contact, the rest of the unit just kind of sits there and does nothing. Okay? In order to avoid that, that's why we decentralize this squad level. So if the higher headquarters is gone for whatever reason, the rest of the military can still operate because they understand the mission. All right. Here's the organization of your fire team. Already discussed it. Team leader, grenadier, automatic rifleman, and your rifleman, your first class. Here's your team leader. And note somewhere it is. Team leader has to do a lot. Now, as we go through this, this is building, whoever built the slides, is building from the top down instead of the bottom up. Everything that this guy has to do, the team, the squad leader has theoretically already mastered all of these things, and they just have an additional layer. Okay? So the team leader leads the rifle team members by personal example, responsible for accountability team members, and has authority over subordinate and overall responsibility of their actions. Centralized authority enables the team leader to maintain discipline and unity and to act decisively. Under the fluid conditions of close combat, the team leader accomplishes assigned missions using initiative without needing constant guidance from higher headquarters. Sounds basically the same as a squad leader, right? They just have 4 people, them and 3 others. That's what they're managing. They're the subject matter expert. You're going to hear the term SME, subject matter expert. SME is it's a pretty common term throughout all industries, private, public, military. SME, that's who you strive to be, the guy, the subject matter expert for whatever your matter is. Subject matter is. They know all the duty positions, all the squad battle drills, and individual soldier tasks. They lead their team when they fire and move. They control the movements and its rate and distribution of fire. Rate and distribution of fire is important. A normal kit that you're going to walk out with current weapons is something like 210 rounds. They're moving into a larger caliber weapon platform, which means you will have less rounds than 210. In a firefight, you can fire all 210 of those in a minute or less. Okay? So they are responsible for saying, hold your fire, slow your fire. Okay? That is very important because once you ran out of ammo, you're not effective on the battlefield. Okay? So it's their responsibility to control their rate of fire. They also distribute the ammo they have to who they feel is appropriate based on where they position it, or based on the talent that shooter has. If you have a person on their team that can barely qualify, you probably don't want him firing those shots because he's going to miss more than everyone else. Okay. They're digital command and control systems. I mean, you like your radios, depends on what you have, but they're going to be radioing because you might not be in the same room. You could be a quarter mile away, right? You could be far away, and so you can't hear someone yelling a quarter mile away in a gunfight, but you might be able to hear the radio. So that is their responsibility. And of course, they are ready to assume the duties of the next level up, which is a squad leader or platoon sergeant in the event that the squad leader or platoon sergeant is out of the fight for whatever reason. Okay, they are ready to next man up. That's what we say. Okay, here's your grenadier. He's got the M203 grenade launcher. It can do a lot of things. Primarily, you're going to do something like high explosive. It's just going to lob a grenade. You can do smoke. You can do smoke for a lot of reasons. Smoke to obscure your movement. You could use smoke if you want a helicopter to know where you are. I.e., you call in for a helicopter to pick you up, could be for whatever reason, and say, hey, we're going to launch red smoke. So when you're there, we're going to launch red smoke near us so that the helicopter pilot sees red smoke and knows, oh, that's my guys. Okay. The grenadier provides the fire team with a high trajectory and a high explosive capability. High trajectory means not necessarily line of sight. Okay. If I see you, my bullet will go straight, but he could lob a grenade over an object and land it behind it. Okay. That's why it's a high trajectory. Low trajectory is maybe like throwing a baseball. Okay. Grenadiers fire enable the fire team to achieve complementary effects with high trajectory, high explosive munitions, flat trajectory ball ammunition from the team's weapons. The grenade launcher allows the grenadier to produce 3 effects: suppress and destroy enemy infantry and light armored vehicles with high explosive or dual purpose, known as HEDP. Provides obscurance to screen, like say you're going to fire smoke. This means that you can move. If you have thermal vision, you can probably see through the smoke when they can't. Okay, these are about giving your people advantages in the battlefield. Cover the squad's fire movement and employ illumination rounds to increase the squad's visibility and mark enemy positions. Illumination rounds is going to be something like a flare attached to a parachute. You're going to shoot up in the air. It's going to deploy the parachute. They used to have little army men that would have this, where you just kind of throw them up in the air and then they float. Okay, it's shooting it up in the air, and then it's going to slowly float down, illuminating the area wherever you want it. It doesn't last forever. You get a couple of minutes, okay? But sometimes that's all you need. The only other thing you need to be aware of, because if you have the opportunity to fire it, it is fun to fire. Kind of like they'll put like a trash can out and maybe try to shoot it, just trying to blow up a trash can. It's kind of like playing darts or something else. One thing they have is something called a dead zone. A dead zone is where you're going to have your sectors of fire and the rest of the squad can't get it because maybe it's on a hilltop or it's in a berm or it's in a ditch or something. That's a dead zone. We can't just shoot at it. So that's what, again, the high trajectory is for. All right? That's what we're going to do. The utility guide. I'm going to switch these up really quick. Go with the automatic rifleman. Most teams are going to get a 249 squad automatic weapon. It can fire a lot of rounds really fast wherever you want. This is the most power you're going to have in your squad. All right. High volume, sustained suppressive direct fires. Just so you know, if you fire all your rounds, you can do 800 rounds a minute, and it will melt the barrel of the gun and ruin the gun. Okay. So when you fire these things, you normally fire in bursts of 3 to 5 seconds.
How many rounds do they usually carry?
As many as they can hold. To be honest, as many as they can hold. So 500,000, right? A lot. So again, when you do all these things, normally you're going to have a Humvee or something else, someone behind you, and most teams will load that Humvee up with as much ammo as they can. You fire so you have something you can just run back to, pick up more ammo, and get back into the fight. Okay? So it's whatever. If you're going to really engage, I think that this gun weighs something like 12 pounds, and then you start adding the bullets, and the bullets all weigh an amount. I mean, they're only ounces, but ounces mean pounds. Okay? And if you as a human being can only carry so much before you're incapable of moving. And in the modern battlefield, if you can't move, you die. Okay? So movement is key. So you don't want to be carrying 100 pounds of ammo because you can't do anything. Right? Normally you'll give this weapon. So everyone's going to be familiar with each other's weapons. Okay? You're normally going to give the squad the saw to your strongest guy or biggest guy because they can carry the most. Just so you know. That's probably what you're going to do. They know all the duties of the rifleman and the grenadier because they stepped up to this rank. They can probably be a team leader. And again, they are ready to step up to be the team leader, to be the squad leader, to be the platoon sergeant if need be. They can engage from prone, kneeling, standing. You don't shoot well while you're moving. That's advanced weapon skills. I don't think you guys will do that until you actually get to the force. It's a safety thing. Because if you're running and shooting, you might trip and shoot someone else. All right. So you'll do that later. They understand the mission 2 levels up. For them, they understand what the squad's trying to accomplish. They understand what the platoon is trying to accomplish. Rifleman is your your basic infantry unit. They're the baseline standard, private first class. They went to basic training. They went to AIT, which is their advanced individual training. And now they've hit the force. They're going to be a private for a PFC for about a year. So it's something like 9 months to a year to pick up PFC. Then you're going to be a PFC for a year before you pick up specialist, which means you've been in for 2 years by the time you pick up specialist. Okay. This is where you're learning. Rifleman is expert in handling and employing the weapon and placing well on fire. Just know your weapon. That's their duty. Be capable of engaging all targets with well-aimed shots. Know how to occupy, cover, and conceal positions in all environments, and what protection they provide from direct fire weapons, and is competent in the performance of these tasks while using night vision devices. Shooting with night vision is really, really hard. Okay, really hard. For one, the night vision extends past your face. Okay, so it's not like your glasses, it's out here. And when you're firing a weapon, I don't know if you guys have fired a weapon before, your sight is here. Okay, so now you have night vision out here, which is why they normally use infrared lasers, and you're just firing where your laser can aim. Okay, just let you know, it's not fun, but it's better than having nothing. Okay, we had a thing which is we own the night. That was the military, that was the Army thing back in the 90s because we were the only ones with night vision goggles. And if you can see, then you fight when you can see because no one else sees in the night. All right? Be a part of the team. Buddy aid. So, and again, this is what everyone knows. You're going to have combat lifesaver. The point of combat lifesaver is not to perform brain surgery. It is to prevent blood loss, to try to keep someone alive until they can get medevac or casevac back to the rear where you're going to have level 2 care. Okay, and that is the job of combat lifesaver. Think EMTs. Okay, your EMT is there to pick up the person and get them back to the hospital. That is combat lifesaver. Manage your food, water, and ammunition. Say Army marches on its stomach. If you don't have food, you don't have energy to do anything. If you don't have water, you will dehydrate. You don't have energy to do anything. And if you don't have ammo, you can't do anything because you don't have ammo. Okay, so we have a practical exercise. So we have about 15 minutes. So what I want you guys to do, you're going to brief me back, okay? So each of you are just going to choose a position. You're going to spend about 2 minutes trying to remember what I just told you, and then you're going to tell me what that position is, okay? So going around the table, you're the squad leader, you're the team leader, you're the grenadier, you're the automatic rifleman, and you're the basic private, okay? So just spend the next 2 minutes to think about what you're going to say, and you're going to tell me what you just learned. You got computers, you can look it up. All right, you guys ready to go? Starting with most junior. What's a rifleman do?
They are basically the basic infantry unit, expert in handling and employing the weapon and placing well suppressive fire at the M4, right?
Right now, your basic weapon is the M4. By the time you guys hit the force. It'll probably still be the M4, but that'll be phased out by whatever the next generation squad weapon is. Or they're going to designate. I don't know if they've decided. You guys know if they've decided on a name for it?
I don't think so. I haven't heard anything.
It'll probably fail. And we'll just stay with the M4. Okay, what else you got? Anything else?
Well, you need to know how to do like first aid in case anyone gets injured until they can be transported in a castellac or medevac.
Yep. Okay. The basic unit, right? Automatic rifleman. What do you do?
They're like the main suppressive fire. I don't know, they like hold a ton of ammo. That's all I got.
Okay. They do direct fire and area fire. Okay, just fire in that general area. We know they're in the tree line. We don't know where they are. Just fire that way. And the idea is that they can, well, you want to hit the target, but they can keep the head of the enemy down, and you are able to maneuver or call for fire on your own while keeping them from moving. Because if you can know where the target is, then you can call for artillery, call for an airstrike, call for mortars, whatever you want to call for. I just would call for fire. So, yeah, their job, suppressive fire. The Grenadier.
So the Grenadier's job is to deny dead space to the enemy using high explosive, high trajectory rounds. We also have flat rounds, able to shoot from any position, reload while moving. We also have smoke to provide concealment and flares to illuminate the area.
What's the difference between cover and concealment?
Cover stops bullets.
Cover stops or whatever. Yeah. Cover provides actual protection. Does a bush provide cover? No. Okay. So don't hide behind bushes if you have the opportunity to find something better. Team leader, what do you got?
As a team leader, it will be my responsibility to maneuver my team through the objective. I would need to understand what the goal of my squad leader and what the goal of the platoon is, what the mission is, so that I can continue to operate, without needing constant reinforcement commands from him. And I would also have to know my troops, what they have, how they're doing, and their roles and their responsibilities.
Yeah.
When I was able to be a team leader during the FTX, the way I kind of saw it was like my job was to make his job easier.
I wouldn't say that. I would say your job is to perform, right? If you're making his job easier, that means you're doing his roles. You should be doing your role as team leader, right? You are directing your team because he told you to, right? That's not making it easier for him, right? You're just operating. Okay? So never try to do anything that makes it difficult for your supervisor, but if you're making it easier, that means you're taking on his responsibilities, which you shouldn't be doing, right? His responsibilities are his, yours are yours, okay? So you don't need to necessarily make it easier. Anyways, for the squad leader, what do you do?
I would be an NCO. I think you said usually 4 to 8 years, somewhere in that range. You're gonna have 8 people under you, and your job is to like maneuver that squad and communicate with the PL and PSG and understand their mission, and then move your squad to comply with their mission and what they want you to do, and then making sure to communicate with the TLs to get the rest of the men in place and doing what they're supposed to be doing.
So my experience, PL, you're gonna know all your troops. You're gonna know all your troops. Company commander, you're gonna know all your troops. Battalion commander, maybe. Brigade commander, they're not gonna know hardly anybody. You, as a platoon leader, you are probably going to spend more time with your platoon or with your squad leaders than you will with your platoon sergeant. Okay. The reason for that, again, it's how you want to run your platoon. I want it to be, let's say, in the fight, and the squad leader's in the fight, while the platoon sergeant is making sure the platoon functions. So they're normally in the rear, right? They're the one planning the mission. They're the one planning how are we going to get food? How are we going to get ammo? How are we going to get fuel? That's more the platoon sergeant's role. The platoon leader, you are the leader, all right? And going back to football, if you're the platoon leader, you are the quarterback. That is your job, whereas the platoon sergeant is more like the offensive coordinator, maybe not that. But yeah, if you're the platoon leader, you are there, and your squad leaders are with you. Okay, that was my experience. It can go the other way too. One of you, right? You could want to be the planner and sit behind everybody, if that's who you want to be. Kind of hard to lead from the rear. Feel so to do it. So, just something to think about. All right. So, last thing as we move on, I can either do this Kahoot with you guys. You guys done Kahoot? Not familiar? We do a Kahoot, or I can give you a take-home quiz. Kahoot. All right, let's see if this works. Up to 10 people. I'm going to start. I think it's 8 questions. Could be 10. Let me know when you guys are. You can choose whatever name you want. If you want to do a goofy name, do. Oh, the sound of this. One, two, three, four, five. Is that everyone? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, ready to go? Start. That's space. How many members make up the standard fire team? Oh, I'm such a good teacher. That's fast. How many members make up the standard infantry squad? Squad. Okay. 3 main weapons organic to a standard fire team and squad. Ooh.
The M9 is a pistol, right, sir?
M9's a pistol. We don't use it anymore. We use the M17. The M60 is something they used in Vietnam.
What's the MP service one?
What?
MP, do they carry a sidearm?
Military police? Yes. They use the M17. So the M17 replaced all M9s. Oh, you're on fire. I don't know why you're on fire, but you're on fire. Okay. Who's responsible for maneuvering the fire team? Maneuvers fire team. Who maneuvers the squad? You're gonna miss one. Don't miss one. How many team leaders in the standard infantry squad? Uh-oh.
There we go.
A misclick for sure. Which fire team member is responsible for covering dead space? And the first sergeant, of course, is not in the fire team.
I don't know too.
All right, make this the last one. List of members that comprise a standard fire team. A sniper, you designate a sniper, and normally that's a platoon would designate one.
There's only one per platoon.
Yeah, normally, yeah, because they get a specific weapon. Alright. Okay, so I think I just exit. And going back to the slides one more time. So, what are the two main lessons you learned today? What was one lesson?
I think the culture advisor.
Cultural advisor. What was another lesson you learned today?
I think the years of service was good to see like how long each of them had usually been in.
I just meant squad tactics, but yeah. So again, normally the E4 is again 4 to 8 years. He's normally 6 to 10 years. If you're in different MOSs, you will promote slower. So, you know, infantry promotes faster, and the reason should be obvious. There's more attrition in the infantry, right? People age out, they get hurt, they get out of the infantry. The infantry is a tough life. If you're going to do infantry, be a tough person. All right, just letting you know. All right, it is a rough life. All right, so with that, do you have any questions?